It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. Search for the KABC News Blitz wherever you get your podcast and send us an email at randykabc@gmail.com. Yesterday, Gavin Newsom made another one of his famous big splashy announcements that doesn't really mean anything. Because tell me if you've heard this before from Gavin, enough is enough. Every city and county needs to clear all the homeless encampments, and I'm talking now. And Gavin has made these statements many, many, many times, and there's usually not a lot of follow-through because he openly says, well, it's really the county's responsibility, and I can tell them and I can wag my finger, but it's on them. So blame them, even though the state spent $25 billion over the last 5 years on this problem. And in fact, at that press conference where he was announcing Prop 1 funding and this blueprint ordinance to ban homeless encampments throughout the entire state of California, a policy proposal that probably a lot of people agree with, they just don't believe it. Well, Gavin was asked by Ashley Zavala of KCRA3, what happens with all of this money? At some point, do you turn off the well if they're not clearing the encampments? Because right now, we don't know where any of this money went.
Hi, Governor. Ashley Zavala with KCRA. And that actually tees me up to this question. And I want to just take a big step back. I understand we're talking about Prop 1 funds and what voters have approved. But I mean, for years now, there have been questions overall about the effectiveness of this system that's been in place where the state is sending cities and counties money to address a problem, and especially when it comes to homelessness. You yourself have said, as mayor of San Francisco, you got not a dime from the state. And I'm wondering, like, at what point would your administration just no longer do this? And I'm not just talking about...
And what she's pointing out there is that Gavin will constantly say, you know, when I was a mayor, I never got any help from the state. I never got help from Schwarzenegger. I never got any help from any of the state government. I had to deal with it on my own. And then I promised I was going to end homelessness in 10 years, and that didn't happen. But this money, this problem, what isn't bad? When we started spending all this money on it is when it seemed to get worse.
No longer do this. And I'm not just talking about specific jurisdictions. I mean, everyone. Is that a conversation that your administration is having, or is that off the table?
Well, let me first start by complimenting those jurisdictions that are doing an outstanding job. And I should note, you saw that overall homelessness across the country went up 18.13% this year. You know, before I got here, we had a 5-year run where we saw a 50% increase.
He loves to say before I got here, like he wasn't lieutenant governor. I guess that isn't a real job.
In the homeless population. We finally tempered that. And that's the effort of local elected officials in partnership with community-based organizations.
Where's the evidence that we've tempered that? If you look out on the streets, and by the way, he keeps saying it's unacceptable, but then as soon as he gets questioned on when he's going to turn off the money, oh, we're doing great at it.
And leaders of all stripes that are making progress, but it's not even. And there's parts of the state that, frankly, aren't even participating. There's a classic example of a community that refused to put $1 in to receive hundreds of thousands of dollars of state funding for a shelter. They've simply turned their back in terms of accountability and responsibility.
So what Gavin's talking about there is the city of Turlock. And the mayor and the city manager of Turlock, very small town, they had a homeless shelter that needed a letter of recommendation from the city so they could get $200,000 of state funding. And the city of Turlock simply said to this homeless shelter that also gets funded from this city, hey, we have a bathroom problem. Your shelter's only open at night. Can you keep the bathrooms open 24/7 so people aren't going in the streets? And the shelter said no and didn't want to provide any accountability for how successful the shelter was. So Turlock said, I don't know if we want to support this. And Gavin went down their throats.
Those dollars should come back, specifically in this case. They don't deserve those dollars. And I wonder, and I say this with respect, on the crisis of our time, I wonder if local representatives there deserve to lead the people of those communities when they're
Well, their constituents are sick and tired of all of this money being wasted and the money being spent actually attracting more of the problem.
the people of those communities when they're leaving people out in the streets and sidewalks, and the state has come in with unprecedented support. So my frustration is highlighted in those instances, but not in those instances where we have working partners.
Yeah, he loves to tout Karen Bass as a success story for this, except what did we find out last week? Oh, that's right. The crooked head of the LA Homeless Services Authority, Dr. Valicia Adams-Kellum, was fudging the numbers because she didn't want Karen Bass to look bad because her signature program, Inside Safe, is a colossal failure. Gavin Newsom was also asked by the San Jose Mercury Star if he's planning on modeling his ordinances after what San Jose is doing.
Hi, Governor. Thanks for taking our questions. I spoke with San Jose Mayor Matt Mahan this morning. He's made some national headlines himself for homelessness proposals. There's some polling showing his proposal to compel people into shelter may be popular with voters.
You're damn right it is. This guy is on the pulse of where the state of California is. He was the most prominent mayor to support Proposition 36, something that passed even in LA County by ridiculous margins, 70-30.
He said he appreciated.
And now he's got a new proposal, and some may call it extreme. If you refuse shelter, you could be arrested.
He said he appreciated your proposal here with the model ordinance. And he said your model ordinance in a lot of ways follows San Jose's approach really closely and does a lot of what San Jose is already doing. I know other cities have adopted encampment ordinances after grants passed, but did you take any inspiration from what Mahan and San Jose are doing?
Well, we took inspiration from the collective work of people that wrote that amicus brief. As you know, we led with that amicus brief. California joined on the grant.
Did he just say amicus beef? I think he did.
He said your model ordinance.
We led with that amicus brief. California joined on the grants pass, and we put out an executive order. And if you go back to my executive order.
Oh, yeah. If you're feeling deja vu, it's because Gavin Newsom had an executive order a year ago that said, clean up the damn encampments or no more money. And you know what? The encampments did not get cleaned up, and they kept spending the money.
Back to my executive order from last year, you'll see that framework that we advanced today. So look, I take inspiration from wherever we can find it. As a former mayor, I understand how challenging that job is, and I applaud any mayor for their willingness to lean in on this issue. And I'm grateful that there are a number of cities that have taken the state's support, that have done a very effective job with those investments.
Oh, and by the way, when Gavin had that executive order last year, do you know who put out a motion openly defying it? Los Angeles County. We're not going to clear the encampments. We're going to do it our way. And our way wastes way more money and doesn't actually solve the problem.
And continue to want to do more and iterate in this space. And
he loves to say iterate. It's so weird.
In this space. And so I'm grateful that he and San Jose have adopted an ordinance and a framework around encampments, around notification, around personal belongings, about providing alternative strategies and opportunities to get people housed. We have the encampment resolution grants, as you know, $750 million.
Okay, Gavin's going to start making it rain with nonsensical figures. Let's go ahead and find out what exactly is going on in San Jose, the third largest city in the state of California. What is Matt Mahan proposing? What is the policy? Do you want to see something like this here? Let's find out. Here is KPIX in the Bay Area.
Today, Governor Newsom calling for more aggressive sweeps of homeless encampments all across California.
It is time to take back the streets. It's time to take back the sidewalks. It's time, I think, to just end the excuses and call the question. It's about accountability.
Feel like we've heard all this before.
That battle already playing out in one Bay Area city. Today, San Jose city leaders discussed a plan from Mayor Matt Mahan that would order the arrest of anyone who turns down multiple offers of shelter. John Ramos spoke to local homeless advocates who say the get tough approach won't solve the problem.
Well, of course. If they're homeless advocates, they have a vested interest in the problem not getting solved. But I don't know about you. I'm at the point where I don't want anyone saying no anymore to the help that we're offering. And if you refuse the help and you decide to either wither away because you've got some debilitating mental illness, that's on us. And it is on us to have a conservatorship, do all this care court nonsense Gavin's been talking about for 5 years, and get that person into an institution. If it's a drug problem and they refuse help and they refuse treatment, well, there's a simple answer for that: prison.
San Jose's approach to shutting down homeless encampments is something the governor would like to see in cities and towns across the state. And he's offering a little legislative assistance to do that. The help comes in the form of a sample ordinance offered as a template for cities to adopt to deal with encampments.
Doesn't really have any teeth, though. If cities decide to not adopt it, like Los Angeles, they're not going to lose any of that precious money.
It spells out the problems from public safety issues to health dangers to blight, and concludes with, quote, large encampments and those with semi-permanent structures exacerbate and perpetuate these harms. Every local government must have a plan to address them, end quote. That seems to be the point of the order, to get every city on board with the effort.
We have to call out those that aren't even engaging in this conversation and somehow think it's someone else's responsibility, not just on homelessness, but on housing as well.
Someone who is engaging in that conversation is San Jose Mayor Matt Mahan.
Now, if you don't know Matt Mahan, it's his first term as mayor in San Jose. He is Democrat, but he's also not totally a career politician. He comes from the tech world, and he was a small business owner that saw what was going on in San Jose, and he's been very common sense on issues like homelessness and on crime. Again, he was the most notable person in elected office championing Prop 36, which he was totally right on.
Someone who is engaging in that conversation is San Jose Mayor Matt Mahan.
I'm very aligned with the governor on his announcement today and this notion that we cannot allow for camping by choice. Permanent encampments are very corrosive for society. As you know, we already do hundreds of encampment abatements per year.
Mahan says ending what he calls the era of encampments has been his top priority since taking office.
I love this. You know, it's a really, really, really lofty goal, and some might say impossible to say we want to end homelessness. But you know what is tangible? The ending of the era of encampments, because we didn't used to tolerate this.
And the city is looking to add teeth to its approach, including a policy to arrest people who repeatedly refuse the offer of a bed at a shelter. And he says it's the state's responsibility to make sure that San Jose isn't alone in the effort.
Only the state can ensure that every city, every county does its fair share, and that we have a uniform set of policies and laws that allow us to intervene and incentivize people to come indoors. Most people say yes, and they're grateful for it.
And the thing is, if you had this blanket policy throughout the state, people couldn't say no, because it's not like you can go somewhere else. But what's going to happen is what has happened. Places that wanted to be more friendly towards the homeless, like what used to be San Francisco, they've turned the corner on this, but Oakland and specifically Los Angeles, they're going to be the place to go. If you don't want to get hassled, come to LA County, especially the city of LA, but especially unincorporated LA County.
I think we should be especially concerned about those who say no repeatedly.
But as he was saying that, a group of homeless advocates were gathered outside, protesting against the city's position that homelessness is some kind of choice.
Oh boy, here we go. Everyone's favorite, the advocates. Hey, how many homeless people are you housing?
If our economy hadn't tanked, if people hadn't lost so many jobs during COVID.
This isn't COVID. That's a long time ago. And some of these people were on the streets way before that. Why is it so hard to admit what the problem is?
If people hadn't gotten sick, this wouldn't be happening. There aren't people out there, substantial amounts of people living out there because they like it, because it's great living out there in the cold and the wet and being exposed to the elements of all the people around you. It's not like a great choice.
Yes, so if people are making that choice, they obviously cannot make decisions for themselves anymore, either through a mental illness or drug addiction. And that is unacceptable.
Sean Cartwright is founder of a homeless advocacy group. She believes the push by Newsom to shut down encampments across the state has more to do with personal politics than it does camping.
Well, that is true.
It's been obvious to me.
If Gavin was really serious about this, he would have done something about it when he became governor 6 years ago.
It's been obvious to many people that the governor is posturing so that he can run for higher office, much like Mayor Mahan is posturing so he can run for higher office. So the governor has been seen as a liberal who has been soft on homelessness. And so now he's got to get hard on homelessness so he can run and ditch all these homeless people. They're both doing the same thing. They're ditching homeless people, getting hard on homeless people so that they can get out of here.
That's a strange phrase that she just used, and I'm not even going to play it again.
There is a concern that if cities do not adopt Newsom's ordinance, it could lead to the denial of state homeless funding. The governor says that's not currently the case, but he does seem intent on getting everyone on board.
If you put out this ordinance and you say you have to follow this, but you don't cut off the funding if they don't follow this, nothing changes. Yeah, you have San Jose that wants to do something about it, but Los Angeles is going to stick to the same old, same old. Don't worry, just another layer of bureaucracy is going to solve the problem.
With the move to shut down the encampments.
Well, the governor's model ordinance comes after last year's U.S. Supreme Court ruling that said cities could enforce camping bans and clear encampments even if space is not available in shelters.
Well, there you go. So here's my question to you. If you live in a place like Los Angeles, 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. San Jose has a brand new policy that they're working towards. If you repeatedly refuse the offer of shelter, you can be arrested. Is it time that we arrest the homeless that refuse to get help? 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. Your thoughts on arresting homeless people that refuse help. 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. Get on the line right now. I want to hear what you think about this. This is going on in San Jose, and if there's popular opinion, maybe we can elect somebody that would bring this policy to Los Angeles. Do you agree with the idea that if someone refuses help, refuses shelter, they could be arrested? Because that's what's going on in San Jose. 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Gavin Newsom put out a new executive order saying cities have got to clear homeless encampments no matter what. We've heard that before. One city is taking an interesting approach. In San Jose, their new idea is if you repeatedly refuse the offer of shelter, you can be arrested. Is it time we start arresting the homeless for refusing help? 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. Let's start with Alan in Encino. Alan, hello.
Hello, how are you?
Doing great.
Okay, so the homeless advocates say this will not solve the problem. So what's the problem we're trying to solve? Well, I see people, young women walking with strollers down Wilshire Boulevard every day, going past scary-looking men with psychiatric episodes. I see people defecating on the streets and causing disease. I see businesses that I have purposely avoided because I see large numbers of homeless people hanging out. So I would define the problem in those terms, and I'm all for this ordinance because in my view, that's a problem. Will it solve the problem of addiction? I don't know, but it'll certainly solve the problem that impacts most of our daily lives. That's my comment.
You're totally right about that, Alan, because what needs to be in the conversation always is the homeowners and the business owners and everyone that pays an arm and a leg to live here that has to deal with this blight and unsafe areas and all the other problems that come with it. And we should be considered just as much as these poor, unfortunate souls that need help. So I'm in total agreement with you, Alan. Thanks so much for the call. A phone number to join us is 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. In San Jose, they want to start arresting the homeless when they refuse shelter. No more encampments, no more excuses. Do you want to see something like that in LA? Do you think it's time we arrest homeless people that refuse help? 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. If you're on hold, stay on hold. We're going to get to your calls next. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC. 1-800-222-5222. Your emails as well at randykabc@gmail.com. And search for the KABC News Blitz wherever you get your podcasts. Gavin Newsom signed yet another executive order saying enough is enough. No more excuses. It's time to clear all the homeless encampments in the state of California, which, by the way, he should see all the ones that are on Caltrans property that are directly his responsibility. But regardless, last time he did this, LA balked and said that's inhumane. San Jose taking a different approach. Matt Mahan, the mayor up there, has a new plan. If you repeatedly refuse shelter, we're clearing the encampment, and if you refuse to go inside, you refuse shelter, you could be arrested. Is it time to arrest the homeless that refuse help? 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Thanks for holding, everyone. Let's start with John in Orange. John, hello.
Hello, Randy. Thank you for having me.
Glad to have you.
Hey, so anyways, I totally agree that we should arrest homeless people for being homeless, but is it constitutional? And coming from a law enforcement background where I was actually assigned to the homeless outreach team, I don't think this problem is going to get fixed until we do arrest everyone or we reverse Proposition 47 and 57.
I think those things are definitely on the table. 36 was a step, but we've got to start people love to say, how dare you want to criminalize poverty? Well, it's not so much the poverty, it's the things that you're doing in that encampment, because we know those encampments are hotbeds of illegal activity, violence, fires, drugs, prostitution, you name it.
And seeing as that I was assigned to that position, I saw a lot of that. It was almost, I used to call it, I was in the movie Mad Max in Nickelodeon because of all the bright tints, but it was definitely crazy with all the narcotics, mental health issues, and it's not about money, people being able to pay rent. It's about addiction, and it's about mental health. And unfortunately, prior to 47 and 57, a lot of people were let out of prison because they were three strikes candidates, and those people were let out. And like I told a friend of mine, it's like opening up the door to a dog pound, and these people have nowhere, or these dogs have nowhere to go. And I hate to refer them as dogs, but that's the best comparison that I can compare it to.
Well, I mean, you look at the correlation when the population, especially in a place like LA County, exploded, and it was just around the same time that we started emptying out all the prisons. And you look at a lot of these encampments and you identify who's in there. You see a lot of outstanding warrants. You see a lot of sex offenders. It's not everybody, but there's a lot of people who are not ready to be in society. And instead of further, completing rehabilitation, serving their full sentence, setting them up for success, which I thought was the whole point of CDCR, we let them out, and now they're on the streets terrorizing people.
I totally agree. And I wish we can go to something like just arresting them and forcing them to get help. But unfortunately, I don't think anything like that would really stand.
In California, it's tough, but it doesn't want me to stop trying. Thanks so much for the call, John. Really appreciate the insight. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. Let's go to Mickey in Encino. Mickey, hello.
Hey, Randy, how you doing? I'll probably be speaking pretty quickly because I know you got a lot of callers that want to get in. But yeah, anyhow, I totally agree with the idea to arresting them. I don't actually like to look at it that way. I'm more like picking them up to help them out. But yeah, I mean, they should have done this years ago. I used to think to myself, like, maybe these people don't want help, but it's like too bad. You can't be out here, like you were saying, and other callers have said, terrorizing people, or in other cases, which I told you I know from my background, exposing themselves at times in front of children, at times using anywhere they're at any time to use it as a public toilet, threatening people. Yeah, you know all this stuff already. And I don't know, I'm surprised they're allowed to do. I would think that is breaking the law, really. I mean, it is. If you expose yourself or steal or threaten or whatever, then they have broken the law. So, yeah, the fact that they may not want it is too bad. I'm sorry. It's ridiculous. They don't get to make the decision that they're allowed to stay out there and do all the things I just said and other callers have said. The other thing I wanted to say real quickly is, I know you talked about the other day, the San Diego people are frustrated. They didn't know what they were going to get. But you probably already know this. I don't know if a lot of the other callers know this. But I know this from my background, that a lot of these, ballot, initiatives, all this sort of thing, they are deliberately written in a confusing manner to confuse the voter. I don't know if the callers are aware of that, or if you are, but a lot of the times these ballot initiatives are written in a confusing manner on purpose.
Of course they are. They're written in a way that you don't know what it is you're voting for. You remember when the repeal of the gas tax was on the ballot, it was written in such a way that you were confused if voting yes meant you wanted the gas tax to stay or not. This is how it happens. So people have to do as much research as possible. And, direct democracy can be really great in this state when you look at something like Prop 13, but it has definitely been taken advantage of time and time and time again by the special interests, which include people that want raises for government employees.
Yeah. I mean, it's bad enough you had a lot of sleaze in power. We talked about that the other day, and you've talked about that too. But now you've got sleaze who write the initiatives and the ballot measures, and it's just it's sleaze all the way around. There was a quick homeless story I wanted. There's a million, really, and there's no time for that. But this is the one that came to my mind. When we talked about all their disgusting activities, I remember I got a call one time because I told you that was my background, working in one of these offices, and it was from a lady who ran a very upscale jewelry store in Beverly Hills. I mean, really upscale. And she had described to me how one of them had left a serious load right at the door when you walk in.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I know. It's so pathetic. I mean, I know it shouldn't be laughed at, but all you can do is laugh. It's so sorry, but yeah, that's one of a trillion examples that could be given about. But the last thing is, I know you got to split. Did you ever see that my Chef Lightning Lips thing that I said to you, with the Speedy Food Talk thing? I think you said you were going to give it a listen. Or
oh yeah, that thing is fantastic. It's like the Micro Machines guy.
Yeah. All right. That's about it for now. I guess. Like I said, I know you got a zillion callers, so thanks for taking my call, and I hope that does go through. And just like it or not, they got to go off the street. That's it.
Well, thanks always for the call, Mickey. Appreciate it. And that's the thing. If this goes through in San Jose and it's successful, you're going to see demand for this to be replicated statewide. Maybe we even need a ballot measure. Who knows? But that's what's going on. In the city of San Jose, they're talking about arresting the homeless that repeatedly refuse the offers of shelter. No more encampments. If you say encampments are unacceptable, you got to have teeth behind it. And yeah, usually when there is an arrest, there's a lot of illegal activity going on. Let's go to Ralph in Whittier. Ralph, hello.
Hey, John. Your previous caller, I think I recognize his voice. He was probably assigned to the host team. Expanding on what he said, one of the issues people ought to understand, they don't realize the Board of Supervisors wants to shut down Men's Central Jail without a replacement. They want to shut down Sylmar Juvenile Hall and Los Padrinos Juvenile Hall without any kind of replacement behind it and send violent people home on home confinement. About 2010, there was talk of injecting $700 million into Norwalk Metropolitan State Hospital. It never happened. Back when Alex Villanueva was in office, he pitched turning county housing down by Rancho Los Amigos into a facility for mentally ill, where they could be triaged out of the reception center down at the jail complex and sent to various places, drug rehab, mental health, what have you. Nobody ever followed through on that. Nobody ever followed up on it. And keep in mind the $24 billion that was supposedly sent to LA County to help the homeless, along with, what was it, Measure A, I believe, that just raised the sales tax 0.25% to help the homeless. That money was never used for any of that. So it's $5 a little bit too late. You can put all the teeth in it you want, but you have no place to put these people. It does no good to go out and round them up. They need to be rounded up for their own good and the public's good, but there's no place to put them. And that's what it comes down to.
That's a really, really, really good point. I'll say two things. One, this is interesting. One of the things that Gavin announced yesterday that Prop 1 is going to fund is at that Norwalk Metropolitan State Hospital for whatever a mental health care village is, but at least there's going to be more beds there. Maybe there needs to be much more investment in that place. But you talked about the closing of Men's Central Jail, which the Board of Soups has been working on for over 5 years now. They had a hearing just a couple of weeks ago where Janice Hahn asked, now that there are so many more arrests and so many people being sent to MCJ under Prop 36, is it even possible for us to close Men's Central Jail? And the people in charge of closing the jail said, we're not sure anymore. They're still going to try, but part of the problem of depopulating is Prop 36 is actually starting to repopulate, which is the first time I had heard any numbers like that to begin with. I think going back to January, there's been over 300 people that have been arrested and put in jail under Prop 36, and that is at least some kind of progress. And if that stops the closing of MCJ or it gets the Board of Supervisors to rethink this nonsense, that's at least a step in the right direction.
Yeah, but John, you gotta look at the stats. I'm with Alex a lot, and we hear from people from the Sheriff's Department, from LAPD. Guys in the field are not making arrests, honestly, because of what everybody said. They're afraid to. They don't want to end up being another Trevor Kirk. So I would really like to see those arrest stats. I wouldn't trust Janice Hahn as far as I could throw that building. I would like to see the arrest stats to see where she's getting this, they're filling up Men's Central Jail from. I'm not hearing that from patrol guys, and I can tell you right now, Alex isn't either.
Well, we'll keep looking into it. Appreciate the call as always, Ralph. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. Gavin Newsom wants every city to clear every homeless encampment. Great. How are we going to do that? In San Jose, they've got a new policy. If you repeatedly refuse shelter, you can be arrested. Doesn't mean you'll go to jail. Maybe you go to mental treatment. Maybe you go to drug treatment, but no more encampments. Is it time to arrest the homeless that refuse shelter? 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. If you're on hold, stay on hold. More calls coming up next. It's the News Blitz with John on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. Let's get back to the phones and go to Bill in La Cañada. Bill, hello.
Oh, hi, George. Randy. Andy. John. Unlike Gavin, the numbers don't lie. We got about 70,000 drug addicts on the streets in Los Angeles. It costs $50,000 a year to put them in the big house. We could spend $3.5 billion and have all those people in jail for a year. If it took 2 years to get them straight, it still would only cost around $7 billion. We spent $25 billion in the last 5 years and just got worse problems. So this problem, it can be solved just doing the math, if anybody in government can do that these days.
Well, we don't do that. Notice how they always talk about how expensive it is to imprison somebody. But is that because the budget for CDCR never goes down, but the amount of inmates goes down? So now you're just dividing that cost among a smaller group of people.
Exactly.
Thanks for the call, Bill. Appreciate it. If you're on hold, stay on hold. We'll get to the rest of your calls next. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. I got about 45 seconds for each call, so let's go quickly. James in Azusa. James, hello.
Hey, Randy. Yeah, the only way to solve this, Randy, is to go back to the old days of the one flew over the cuckoo's nest institutions with guards and nurses, the nurse ratchets, and it's humane. It would set a new standard as of how to end this problem nationwide. And You think about all the billions of dollars we wasted on a bullet train to nowhere. I think we could have had 2 or 3 of these institutions in the high desert by now.
I think you're totally right. Thanks so much for the call. And to that point, this is something we actually need the federal government's help on. There was a bill passed in 1999 that made it so any mental health facility that has more than 16 beds isn't eligible for Medicare reimbursement. That's got to go. 16 beds for a facility is way too small and not feasible because you cannot build enough facilities. This is why you don't see the amount of mental hospitals that we should have. That needs to be reversed today. Let's go to Elizabeth in L.A. Elizabeth, hello.
Yeah, Randy, hey, 10 years ago, Eric Garcetti gave out all these big 5 tents for $1,000. If everybody wipes out all those $1,000 tents, they wouldn't be sleeping on the sidewalk. They wouldn't have tech stuff in their tents. Get all those campsites. He took money from Big 5 to give them all these tents that you see all around. Get those tents off the grounds all over, and you will have a new life.
You're totally right. And Garcetti, he was giving them all out to everybody. Yeah. Wasn't he great?
I received things on both ends.
How about all the ones that are stealing power? Can we do something about that? Joe in Ventura, you get the last word on this. Joe, hello.
I agree with the caller before the last caller completely. And if we would have started doing this 10 years ago, we'd have no problem right now. Thank you, Randy.
Thanks so much for the call, Joe. Appreciate it. Yes, I think there is definite public support for going back to the mental institutions. And even though this Prop 1 money is going to fund a bunch of projects in LA County, if we can only have facilities with 16 beds, that does not make any sense. We got to change that. And I think there's going to be a lot of public support for Matt Mahan's policy. And if it's effective and he actually clears out as many encampments as possible while he's mayor of San Jose, it could be a model for the rest of the state, which is something that we need. Because if we can point to something like that and say, hey, look what they're doing up there, we should do that down here, then we can get people to run for city council and run for mayor saying, I want to do what San Jose is doing because it works. We're going to see what happens. Just keep it right here. We'll follow this story and everything else. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang. We'll see you tomorrow at 5 for another News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC.